Hello, welcome to Bio 3 again. Last week we talked about carbohydrate. This week we will talk about lipids. So we'll talk about the lipid function, structure. The monomer of lipid is called fatty acid. And then there are different types of, there are different subcategories under lipid, like phospholipids, steroid, hormone, etc. We'll go through everything about lipid today. So function, structure, and subtype. Function is for long-term energy storage. Energy long-term storage. Well, there should be a hyphen here. Energy long-term storage. As you know that if we don't have enough carbohydrate, then we will start to break down our body fat in order to provide energy. Cell membrane. Well, our body, all cell membrane are made of something called phospholipid. Phospholipid, as the name suggested, it has a phosphate group. I will show you the structure of phospholipid in the next few slides. Steroid hormone. Yes, lipid, they make steroid hormones such as all the sex hormones. Like for male, it is testosterone. For female, it is estrogen. I would put one more, number 4 here. Oh, anyway, it says that lipids do not dissolve in water because they are hydrophobic. Hydrophobic, phobic comes from the word phobia, so they are afraid of water. Well, everyone knows that if you add a drop of oil into water, the oil will not mix well with water because oil is hydrophobic. Last one is the protection. Actually, there are more than this function. Protection. And then number 5, insulation. Okay. So protection. Let me tell you my favorite example. Well, I tell this to all my physiology students, I'll let you know as well. Lipid is for protection. Let me give you an example. When you're getting into a fight with someone, so where would you hit people? Usually, most of the people will hit the face or hit the stomach, hit the belly. Hitting the face, well, because it hurts, and hitting the stomach because there's no bone there. And it is kind of the worst place you want to hit is where there are bones, because the purpose of the bone is to protect the body. So if you hit the face, yes, our face has bone, almost all our face with the skull. The skull is to protect the internal organ, namely the brain. That's why it is more, I would say, advisable to hit people in the stomach, because in the belly, it is under the rib cage, but on top of your pelvic bone. When you hit people between this area, there's no bone to protect. That's why it is more vulnerable. But if But for me, I would suggest you not to do that because when you damage the what is in front of the belly, it is the digestive system. If you damage the digestive system of someone that you don't like, basically you will affect the absorption of that person or digestion of that person. Then in this case, you're basically helping that person to lose weight. Why are you so nice? If you hit that person, why do you want to help him to lose weight? So the ideal place to hit is behind the back. So if you hit the front, the belly, you hit the digestive system. If you go with the back, then you hit the kidneys. Yes. Kidney is also exposed in between your rib cage and your pelvic bone, and it is on the two sides. Because in the middle you have the cerebral column, so it is on the two sides behind your back. It is a kidney. So why do you want to hit the kidney? Because kidney is the organ that has no bone protection, and it only has fat. It only has lipid. It has no bone protection, but it only has a layer of fat covering the kidney. In other words, it is easier to damage the kidney. And when you damage the kidney, of course, it will affect the urinary function of that person, and it will also affect the blood production. I'll tell you more about this in the next point. Actually, in the number 3, steroid hormone. Actually, no. Actually, it is the well, let me tell you right now. Kidney produces something called erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is a hormone that will tell your red bone marrow to produce red blood cell. So if you damage the kidney, not only it will affect the urinary function of that person, but it will also decrease the red blood cell production for that person. Because the kidney is damaged, then it can no longer secrete, or it can secrete less erythropoietin. Last but not least, insulation. Insulation is relatively straightforward. We all know that if we have more body fat, then it will keep us warm. It's because it's like a layer of clothes that help us to reduce the heat loss to the surrounding temperature, to the surrounding environment. Lipids, they are electrically neutral, okay, meaning that they are nonpolar. Nonpolar is the keywords. They are nonpolar. That means electrical neutral. So characteristic of lipid, they are mainly carbon and hydrogen mainly. But as a matter of fact, they do have oxygen. They do have oxygen atom. They do have oxygen atom. I'll just put oxy atom. They are mainly carbon and hydrogen, but they also have oxygen atoms. They are not soluble in water. I told you that they are hydrophobic. They are electrical neutral, non-polar, not polar. Well, I would say non-polar. They're non-polar. They contain more stored energy than any other types of carbon because lipid, they contain something called fatty acid chain. Chain meaning that they contain a lot of covalent bond. When we talk about atom molecule, when we talk about ionic bond and covalent bond, I told you that covalent bond stores energy. So that's the reason why fat contains more energy than other molecules, because it has fatty acid chain. The fatty acid chain is mainly made up of carbon and hydrogen. And as you know that when the bond between carbon and hydrogen, they are covalent bond. So lipid contains a lot of covalent bond. And yes, can be synthesized from sugars, meaning that if you eat too much sweet, if you eat too much sugar, if you drink too much soda, your body will convert the excess or extra sugar into fat for storage. We have two types of lipid. Well, actually, there are more than two types of lipid. The first two we'll talk about, they are the fat and oil. As you can see, that fat, they are mostly from animal, and oil, they are actually mostly from plants. And also you can see that fat, they are solid in room temperature, but oil, they are liquid in room temperature. So we'll tell you the significance about the two differences later. So as I said, that they are fat, they are animal origin, they are solid. What's the purpose of fat? Well, we already talked about long-term energy storage, insulation. Yes, I mentioned that. I added as point number 5. And protection, you see. I told you that, remember, beat people, when you hit people, hit their kidneys, all right? Because kidney only has fat to protect them. Fat deposition, you can see that the green area, they are the subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous meaning that meaning under. Cutaneous means skins. So subcutaneous means under the skin. Yellow, they are visceral fat, meaning the fat around the organ. So there are two types of fat. One is subcutaneous fat, one is visceral fat. And then for the mouse in here, you can see that one is overweight. Well, hopefully you can see why. The mouse that is overweight is because the mouse has too much subcutaneous fat. So let me ask you this question. Other than subcutaneous fat and visceral fat, where can we store fat in our body? See if you know this answer. I will let you think about this. Well, I don't know if you get this or not, but we can store fat in bone marrow. We have two types of bone marrow. One is called yellow bone marrow, one is called red bone marrow. Red bone marrow is the one for making red blood cell, and yellow bone marrow is for storing fat. So other than subcutaneous fat, visceral fat, we also have yellow bone marrow to store body fat. Oil is mainly from plants, and they are mostly liquid in the room temperature. See, I told you that already. So what's the purpose of oil? Again, similarly, long-term energy storage. It can act as a natural insecticide. Yes, some of the plant oil, they can help to do that, or some of the tree sap. Tree sap, they are basically also a hydrocarbon. They have a special smell or even chemical to poison the insect. The attraction of pollinator, yes. The honey, they are also hydrocarbon. They have structure very similar to lipid. So the honey flower provide honey, so that bee will go to take the honey, and then at the same time bee will help to transfer pollen. This is an example of mutualism. Mutualism is one of the symbiotic relationship. This is something that we talked about previously. And also function of oil food for seeds. Seeds contains some oil storage inside the seed. For example, one type of the oil that is very famous, omega-3 oil. A lot of seed they have omega-3 oil as well.